Click on Introduction to commence the program. To begin with, let us consider these two questions. What is a meeting? Why do people need to have meetings? What is a meeting? We can use the term meeting when people get together in an organized way to share information, discuss experiences at work, to offer their opinions and their ideas to achieve specific results. Although meetings may differ vastly in various factors, all meetings share some basic characteristics. They all have an objective. They make group communication possible. They proceed following some rules. Someone is in control of procedures. Why do people need to have meetings? Can an organization really function without meetings? After all, how else does one department communicate with another? How do colleagues discuss shared problems and their possible solutions? Meetings are an integral part of working life. Properly organized meetings can provide a forum for a variety of functions. Let us look at the functions of a meeting. They are solving problems, decision-making, strategy planning, policy-making, obtaining information, providing information, exchanging ideas and experiences, and developing teamwork. Meetings can also provide certain benefits to the organization as byproducts, in addition to attaining their planned purpose. They can create a collective identity awareness and thereby a sense of commitment and solidarity within the group. As knowledge is shared, it steps up the level of communication between members and assists those attending to do their work more effectively. The positive effect of meetings is thus synergetic, bringing together different energies for mutual benefit. Yet in practice, it remains all too common to come across meetings where the objectives are unclear, the proceedings are not well managed, and valuable time is wasted. Running a meeting or even contributing to one requires considerable thought. It requires preparation and planning. It is in the absence of such prior planning that a meeting can become a frivolous waste of time. In this program, we will examine the planning that has to be done prior to a meeting. We will study the various aspects of the role played by the chairperson. We will also explore the functioning of group dynamics in its positive and negative aspects, the importance of innovative thinking, and analyze the human reaction to criticism. Now you may click on Planning for a Meeting to proceed in the program. Alternatively, you may click on the M button to proceed to the main menu and then click on the module of your choice. Module 1, Planning for a Meeting, deals with the planning and thought that must precede a meeting. In this module, we will examine the various aspects involved in this prior planning, like the purpose of the meeting, the people involved in the meeting, the size of the meeting, the agenda, the venue of the meeting, the timing of the meeting, the approach and attitude of the chairperson, ending a meeting, and the follow-up action. The purpose of this meeting is to impress you all with the icy air conditioning, the new furniture, and the beautiful new drapes we have just purchased for the conference room. A meeting is not an end in itself. Decide the purpose of the meeting before calling it. It could be to obtain information, to provide information, to solve a problem through consultation, to make a decision, to sell an idea. The goal of the meeting should be determined in advance and conveyed to all participants before the meeting. The key question a manager should ask himself before calling a meeting is it really necessary to hold this meeting? Without a clear result-oriented objective, a meeting becomes a waste of time. If there is a clear-cut objective, then he should further ask, is a meeting the best way to achieve this objective? Who should attend this meeting? The people who should attend the meeting should be chosen on the basis of their relevant awareness, experience, and knowledge of the subject being discussed. They should be the ones likely to make a contribution to the purpose of the meeting. If people are invited without these considerations, the meeting cannot achieve its purpose. You need people who have complementary skills and people who can work together. How many shall we invite? Effectiveness is assisted by the size of the meeting. The size will depend on the purpose of the meeting. If people have to just listen to information, a large group is feasible. If the room is large enough, you can have 20 or 25 people in for such a meeting. If, on the other hand, a lot of interactive participation is required, for example, a meeting for a particular project, then the group should be a small one, comprised of the key people concerned, around 5 to 8 people at the most. When you decide to call a meeting, you have to think of the venue beforehand. Is the room for the meeting appropriate? It should not be too small. It should not be too big. The temperature should be suitable. The lighting should be adequate. The acoustics should be effective and appropriate. The seating should be arranged in such a manner that makes face-to-face communication easy. The venue chosen should also have a certain amount of privacy. The location of the meeting should be away from possible interruptions like irritating telephone calls or traffic caused by people going through part of the room to gain access elsewhere. Now we come to the agenda of a meeting. The agenda is the list of items to be discussed at a meeting. Without a proper agenda, a meeting cannot be steered. Therefore, this too has to be planned in advance with careful thought. The agenda should contain the various items to be discussed at the meeting in logical sequence. It should not be too long or too short. It should bear relevance to the objectives of the meeting, be appropriate to the time allocated for the meeting, and should contain the list of items along with a mention of the approximate time each item would require. The agenda should be handed out in advance to all the participants. It can then help the participants to prepare for the meeting. If it is handed out at the meeting itself, time will be wasted and the participants will not be prepared with what they have to contribute. Let us now focus on timing. The timing of the meeting has 3 aspects: the scheduled start and end. The meeting should start and end on time as per the planned schedule. People should arrive on time for the meeting to start on time. The timing should be circulated in advance so that people can organize their activities accordingly. The duration of the meeting and the timing of individual items on the agenda. During the meeting, speakers should be guided to speak according to the schedule. They should not go on talking without relevance to the point concerned. The chairperson too should not ramble on and on. The time of day chosen. As for choosing the most appropriate slot for the meeting, it should be a time when people are relatively fresh and alert. Generally after lunch, people tend to feel drowsy and lazy. Thus 2 p.m. wouldn't be the best possible time to deal with important, dynamic issues which need decisions. Similarly, when it is time to go home, people would not be in a mood to listen to any weighty issues being discussed. One must therefore use one's judgment to put one's meeting into the best slot available. And what about the chairperson? If the chairperson is not adequate in his role, the meeting will flounder and be ineffective. If he is too weak, participants will take things too lightly and become indisciplined. If, on the other hand, he is too bossy and dogmatic, the participants will feel intimidated and end up not contributing anything at all. The chairperson must therefore develop the right approach and attitude towards the participants. He must fulfill a guiding and facilitating role while remaining sensitive to the needs and feelings of the participants and be able to draw out their contributions. He should be the one to see that everyone is comfortable with the proceedings. Before the meeting is over, the chairperson should summarize clearly what has been achieved and agreed upon. The meeting secretary should record all the decisions and action points in the minutes of the meeting. Everyone should be able to see very clearly what they are required to contribute in order to realize the objectives of the meeting. The minutes of the meeting must be an accurate record of the proceedings, without any ambiguity or confusion. The minutes should always relate to the specific objectives of the meeting, putting down the points discussed, the points decided, and the names of the people who have to do the actions and the time by which the actions should be completed. The chairperson's role does not end with the ending of a meeting. He has the further responsibility of undertaking some kind of follow-up action himself or delegating the task to someone responsible. This follow-up action is to make sure that things get done by the various people as they have been assigned to them. This will enable the chairperson to evaluate the relevance and effectiveness of the meeting and its participants. He can also evaluate his own performance after a meeting and learn from his own mistakes. This brings us to the end of Module 1, which dealt with the planning and thoughts that must precede a meeting. In this module, we examined the various aspects involved in this prior planning, like considering the purpose of the meeting, the people involved in the meeting, the size of the meeting, the agenda, the venue of the meeting, the timing of the meeting, the approach and attitude of the chairperson, ending a meeting, and the follow-up action. Now try your hand at the simple quiz to review the planning you must do before you call a meeting. Click on Start. In this module, we will examine the following in detail: the personal attributes desirable in a chairperson, the various skills which the chairperson has to develop in order to be effective as a leader of meetings, the different types of problem people that the chairman has to deal with in a meeting. A chairperson has to be a people's person, as he has to relate to and sensitively handle a large number of people from different backgrounds and with different approaches to life and work. We should therefore think of those humane qualities that reach across such differences amongst people. To go a step further, we may say qualities which help to bridge gaps and create bonds between people, so that they may function better in groups and generate better results for the organization and for themselves. In order to bridge gaps and create bonds, there must first be the firm foundation of understanding and compassion, together with an ability to be firm and impose checks and controls where necessary, and orchestrate meeting and work procedures with finesse and discipline. This seems like a tall order, but after all, it is that which we seek in a leader, who has to stand taller and higher than others around him. What qualities should he have as a person? A calm and friendly disposition, a firm control on his temper, energy, enthusiasm, a sense of humor and fun, focus and persistence, a clear sense of purpose and direction, a sense of involvement and commitment. He should be open and honest, flexible and supportive, decisive. Finally, he should be an expert in thinking and planning, listening and questioning, drawing out contributions, curbing digressions into areas of conflict, summarizing, learning from mistakes, getting feedback and evaluating results. It goes without saying that he should have a sound knowledge of the business itself and of the work procedures in his organization. He should also be aware of the business climate within the society in which he functions, and the repercussions from the related international situations in that business abroad. Now let us go over the tasks that a chairperson has to perform during the actual course of the meeting. The chairman must open the meeting in an appropriate way, as first impressions are very important. What he actually says is only part of the impression he gives to others. People will pay equal attention to the tone of voice, facial expressions, and general body language he uses. If his mood is cheerful and optimistic, he will send out positive signals to the participants. From the outset, he needs to not only get the attention of the participants, but also to make them all feel that they can contribute. He should present each item in the agenda simply and concisely in logical sequence and stimulate discussion from different perspectives. He should provide some background information for each item to establish the proper context for the discussion. He should try to involve all the participants in the discussion. Every group has the positive, cheerful, contributing type of people who are an asset to the chairman, but it is the problem types who have to be dealt with effectively. For example, the shy, silent person. He should draw out the shy, reticent participant by directly asking him, "Well, what do you think of this?" and encourage him by giving him time to think and then get back to him. He should praise the contribution this participant makes in order to build his confidence. He should deal firmly with the aggressive or the habitually negative types and pin them down to make a positive contribution. He should summarize after each item has been discussed to bring together the different strands of the discussion and then introduce the next item on the agenda. He can thus create a swift flow through each item on the agenda and draw the attention of the participants to the next area that has to be tackled. He can thus ensure a proper use of the time allocated to each item and to the meeting as a whole. Let us look at some of the types of people that we have to deal with in meetings. The person who talks too much. The chairman should politely intervene and guide the discussion back on track by asking someone else a question. The person who always makes negative statements. The chairman should depersonalize the issue, point out the positive viewpoint, and refer the problem back to group opinion. The person who takes up quarrels with other people for personal reasons. The chairman should intervene firmly and guide the meeting back to the item on the agenda. The person who is disinterested and lazy. The chairman should draw his attention by pointing questions at him directly to pinpoint his inefficiency and get a statement from him. The person who interrupts constantly. The chairman must politely intervene and keep control of who speaks when. The person who is aggressive and blocks new ideas or change without reason. The chairman should keep the spotlight on such a person and ask him why he thinks the idea is no good and what will work. The constant joker. If he cheers up the meeting, it is a benefit, but if he is disruptive, the chairman should request him to make only relevant comments. The shy and self-conscious person. The chairman should ask him a question and give him thinking time and get back to him to get his opinion. The chairman should be supportive and encouraging to such a person, for he may well have valuable suggestions. Here are some scenes from a meeting in progress, which depict the behavior of a few such problem people and how the chairman tries to handle them. It is Monday morning at the office, and the staff members of the production team are assembled in the conference room, with the production manager as the chairman heading the meeting. The chairman is summarizing the first item.
To summarize the first item, I would like to congratulate you all on the fact that we have achieved our production targets for October and November. However, our projects for the past 3 months are way behind schedule, and that is the next item on the agenda today. Review of our contract with the suppliers. I have attached copies of the present contract with the agenda sheet given to you yesterday. Have you seen that? And an overall of present work procedures to speed up project work.
I was just trying to get this file completed and I was getting the last few pages copied when the printer ran out of paper and I had to rush to the store to get more paper.
The meeting was scheduled for 9 o'clock. We would appreciate it if you came in on time, Mr. Patrick. Now, we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is an investigation of the inordinate delay in completion of assigned projects. I understand that you all have faced certain difficulties in the completion of your projects due to delays in shipments and the consequent lack of spare parts, and also due to the delivery of faulty spares. We have to redefine our terms of the contract with the company concerned or choose another source. We also need to bring about some changes in our ways of working in order to get quicker results. I would like to open this item for discussion. What do you think, David?
Doesn't matter. Nothing ever changes.
Why do you say that?
We cannot do anything to change things in this situation. We just talk about it. It's useless.
Where do you expect the change to come from?
Well, from the suppliers for one.
Now we are getting somewhere. We have been dealing with them for the past 10 years. It has been a good relationship. This is a recent problem. Maybe it is a problem arising due to recent changes in management. Think about how you could deal with that. Would you, David? We'll get back to you a little later. Now, Marion, tell me, what do you think?
Well, sir, perhaps we could delay payments on stock already delivered and define new terms for the guarantees to our benefit. And, sir,
No, that would never work.
Why do you say that, Fred?
Well, it just won't.
Why?
They would never agree to new terms. I think we should stop dealing with them.
I repeat, this is a recent problem. Should we just throw away a long-standing partnership without investigation? Marion, I would like you to work on defining new terms for the guarantees. Now, in what other ways can we redefine the contract? I think you all have copies of the previous one. I handed them to you with the agenda. Marion, you were saying?
I was saying, sir, that our staff is not trained to assemble the new parts that they have introduced in the newer models. Susan was telling me so, sir.
Well, Susan, why don't you tell us what the problem is?
Oh, I don't know, sir, but these new parts are completely different in design, and we haven't received the instruction manuals yet. We are at a loss, sir.
Well, Susan, is there anything you would like to change in the contract regarding this?
I'm not sure, sir. Perhaps we could get them to train our staff in assembling the parts as part of the contract.
That's a very good idea, Susan. Do make a note of it, Marion.
Yes, sir, and I think, sir, that we could ask them for the materials, for the instruction manuals and print them ourselves. That would reduce our costs, sir.
Well, we do have things to hold against them, as their service has not been up to standard in the last 3 months. We could ask for it. Pending renewal of contract. What do you think, Patrick? How far have you come with your project?
I'm afraid I haven't done too much, sir. This week we had to attend the seminar and I had to look after the stock listings, sir.
Are you facing any particular problem with your project due to the new parts?
Actually, sir, I haven't quite started yet.
Well, Patrick, I will have to assign the project to someone else if you don't show some results by the end of the week.
I am sorry, sir.
Well, to summarize, we will have Marion and Susan attending to the redefinition of the guarantees and inclusion of the points regarding staff training and instruction manuals. Fred and David could investigate the reasons for the recent problems from the side of the suppliers and write them a letter of complaint. Patrick, I would like you to write down your work plans for the new project and show them to me tomorrow. Is there any other point that anyone would like to bring up? We will meet next Monday at the same time to see what progress we make in these areas.
Perhaps you have been able to recognize some of the troublesome types we listed prior to this scenario. In this module, we studied the personal attributes desirable in a chairperson, the various skills which the chairperson has to develop in order to be effective as a leader of meetings, the different types of problem people that the chairman has to deal with in a meeting. Now let's take a quiz to In this module, we will briefly study group dynamics as related to meetings and how areas of conflict can undermine productivity. We will look at some exercises that stimulate innovative thinking to enable members to contribute more creative inputs. We will also examine an individual's reactions to criticism, how they gradually change from negative to positive, as the ability to accept criticism positively and to improve thereby is an important part of teamwork. In order to improve group functioning, we have to look at the people who make up the group. Even though groups may vary in their formations and their functions, certain patterns can be observed and studied to advantage with the purpose of improving group functioning in general. The underlying relationships between members of a group depend on factors such as individual cultural background, upbringing and education, value systems. If members of a group are fairly homogeneous in these factors, there will be positive interactions and bonding. But when there are basic differences in these areas, an effort has to be made to bond the group, at least in work-related areas, with the help of group activities that create a group identity, such as informal get-togethers, fun activities, occasional parties and picnics, and of course, the usual meetings. People in leading positions must think of ways in which all members may be offered incentives in order to inspire them to work harder. They can introduce various schemes to improve participation, such as periodical appraisals with a reward system. A sense of competition in a fair situation is healthy in group functioning. Leading members should use their judgment in balancing the play of competition and cooperation within their groups. There are also specific areas of disturbance and conflict in group dynamics as related to meetings that must receive our attention. These are cultural or national prejudices, gender biases, technical versus management professionals, and old versus young employees. Let's look at cultural or national prejudices. In the case of a meeting of the cross-cultural kind, preconceived notions about the value systems of a particular nationality could result in prejudice that is then carried over to views on the professional caliber of persons of this nationality, even spilling over into the decision-making process, and thus influencing the outcome of the meeting in question. Thus, it is important for each individual to be aware of these possibilities in himself and in others. The conductor of the meeting should also be aware of these potential pitfalls and handle them appropriately. Gender biases. Gender biases can cause troublesome situations. Either gender may have prejudices about the other. The two sexes may not get equal representation. Men may look down on women or vice versa. Either gender may use its sexuality to gain power over the other. Men may make attempts to impress women and brag about their capabilities, or try to show off their knowledge and decision-making capabilities, thus deviating from the genuine objectives of the meeting. The conductor of the meeting should be aware of these undercurrents and handle them appropriately. Technical versus management professionals. Problems tend to arise between professionals who are technically qualified and those in general management, each poo-pooing the other's capabilities, or between those who have risen from the ranks and have no sound education or professional qualifications versus those who do. Again, it is the conductor of the meeting who has to spot these patterns and deal with them. Old versus young employees. This is another possible area of discord. Either party may have prejudices about the other and refuse to work together harmoniously. Here the conductor should see that both the hand of experience and the new ideas of the young are given their due importance. he should make some effort to bridge the gap between the two with the help of informal discussions. Let us now think of some other ways in which we may improve group functioning. Most of us tend to think in the same old tired patterns. The human mind tends to get lazy and avoids thinking in innovative ways because of fear or lethargy. It is comfortable and safe to walk along the same old beaten path. In any work situation, this causes a stagnation and therefore halts progress. Meetings are held with the aim of getting something done. For example, solving problems, decision-making or strategy planning. Solutions are not always easy to come by. We have to think innovatively to get a new perspective on old problems. Thus it follows that for all of us who have to call or attend meetings, it is important to keep ourselves open to new ways of thinking. We now offer you an exercise that will definitely surprise you by pointing out the various ways in which it is possible to think in a given situation. Examine the following situations and type in your explanations in the box below. Then click on the Did the answers surprise you? Perhaps they made you smile. Perhaps they made you wonder. Now when you are faced with a problem that does not have a straightforward solution, remember this exercise and perhaps you might surprise yourself with some innovative solutions. Now let us think of some factors that make effective teamwork possible. The key components of an effective team are a clear shared sense of direction and purpose, enthusiastic, committed team members who are all involved and participate, a focus on achieving demanding tasks and goals, humor, enjoyment and learning, mutual effort and willingness to help each other develop and grow individual strengths, the capacity to challenge and explore issues raised by others in order to generate better solutions, good listening skills as well as good questioning skills. Now let us examine the issue of criticism in group functioning. Constructive criticism is an inevitable part of improving group functioning. It is easy to criticize but difficult to receive criticism. So, let us think of what happens when you are at the receiving end. As team members in an organization, we should be able to take criticism in our stride and use it as an opportunity to improve our skills. Here is an exercise in self-analysis, learning and increased competence. Let us study how the reaction curve occurs. Consider this situation. Think back to such an event. Next, I would like you to try and describe your reactions and emotions. At the instant of the accusation, were you taken aback, even shocked? Did you instantly accept the criticism? Thank you so much for pointing out that I am very disorganized when I pride myself on my... Did you at any time early on feel any anger or blame? If you did, at whom were these emotions directed? The person criticizing you, yourself, or both the parties? When the negative emotions had died down, did you begin to accept that there was some truth in the comments made? Looking back now, was there a time when you figured out that you had got the balance wrong? You felt less competent in the area criticized than you actually were. Finally, would you say now that you are somewhat more competent in the concerned area? The reaction curve starts at the low point of shock or fear. It goes on to disbelief and then to resistance, followed by anger and blame. After that, there is more objective awareness leading to acceptance and regret for earlier negative feelings. Then the curve moves on to exploration of strength and recognition of discovery and development. Finally, the upward curve leads to integration of new skills and improved performance. In this module, we studied group dynamics as related to meetings and how areas of conflict can undermine productivity. We looked at some exercises that stimulate innovative thinking to enable members to contribute more creative inputs. We also examined an individual's reactions to criticism, how they gradually change from negative to positive, as well as the ability to accept criticism positively and thereby lead to improved performance. Now try this quiz to assess how much In this program, we examine the planning that has to be done prior to a meeting. We examined the various aspects of the role played by the chairperson. We also explored the functioning of group dynamics in its positive and negative aspects, the importance of innovative thinking, and analyzed the human reaction to criticism. Now it's time for the final quiz. Click on Start to